Hello everybody! Sometimes in an Azure DevOps pipeline, you need to update something with a variable before you build. This is Stef from Samayas, and welcome to my channel. In a previous video about the build version updater, I've already shown how you can automate the build versions on each run. However, now you might still be in a situation where you need to update something as a CS or CSproj file or some other file. Say you need to update a package version in a CSproj file. Or you want to test in your test project the newly updated version equal to a hard-coded version in the text file. That needs to be updated in code before the unit test runs, otherwise it'll fail. So some years ago, I created two Azure DevOps extensions that will do just that. They are called replacing file between text and replacing file text by text. The first will search in a file or a number of files for a starting position and then replace the text until it finds the next character defined. The second will just replace a specific text with another text. Let's dig in. So I have again created a beautiful test project. I have a test class and I have a test project. My test class, compared to the previous build version updater, is much more extended. This time I have included test. So again, my test class helper method is very creative. And now to make things more complex and to show why you might need a replacing file, let's dig in. So I have a test project and I have a test class with 3 test methods. Very simple, right? My first test method verifies that the full assembly name, which is test class, and version is 1.0.0.0, and then I have culture and I don't have a public token. My second just tests the output of my help me, and that won't change much. And the third is just a true. So if I now run those tests, of course, they will succeed. Now my test class, if I go to the CSproj file, again I've done the same thing. I have a version which is 1.0.0 in development, and I have a second version which on Azure DevOps will take the variable project version number. The same thing for informational version. In development, it's a development build. In information version, it's a release build with a build number. And then finally, we have our package version. Technically, I could do exactly the same thing with package version as I've done with version and informational version, and have a condition to detect whether or not it's running locally or it's running in an Azure DevOps pipeline. However, I've explicitly not done it to show how releasing file works, and I needed a working example. Now let's cause the second issue and let's switch and augment predefined version from 1.0.0 to 1.0.1. For those of you who have been paying attention, if I now rerun the unit tests, of course, one of the unit tests will fail, because now I have a test class which has a version of 1.0.1.0, and I'm still looking for a hard-coded string version equals 1.0.0.0. And here's the second scenario. We need to replace this every time before the build. And so we've created 2 scenarios to test our 2 add-ins, replacing files between text and replacing files text by text. So now I've already created a build pipeline, Azure DevOps releasing file, and as you can see, the first run in version 1.0.0 was successful. If I go and look at the published artifacts, I have a test package 1.0.0 because my package version is hard-coded to 1.0.0. Now let's dig into the pipeline. It's a quite easy pipeline. First, we have .NET build. I take all CS project files I find. As a configuration, I pass build configuration, and my build configuration here is set to release. The second step runs .NET test and takes specifically the tests project, also in release. Then I have a copy. It copies all the NuGet packages it can find, and it copies it to the artifact staging directory, subdirectory NuGet. And then the published build artifacts takes the previously copied NuGet packages in the artifact staging directory, subdirectory NuGet, and publish it to the build. And the final stage, the build version updater, every time the build is successful, will take the project build number and augment it by 1. There's another video explaining how you can use build version updater. Now if you have a look at the variables, we have our build configuration, which in our case is release. We have project prefix version number, which is main and minor and is 1.0. and we have the project build version number, which is 1. And then we have the project version number, which concatenates the project prefix version number and the project build number. Now, if we rerun this pipeline, because project build number has gone up from 0 to 1, our final version for this DLL will be 1.0.1.0, and one of the unit tests will fail. So let's have a run. And now here the unit test will fail. And our build is over. And if we go to the unit tests, we can see we have 1 failed and 2 successful unit tests. Now we will temporarily just disable the unit tests and rerun it again. Now, of course, here the build is successful, but if you go to the publish artifacts, we have our second issue. Our test package is still at 1.0.0, even though we're running 1.0.1. And so we need to fix those two. And so those are the 2 scenarios we need to fix through extensions. Now if we go to the marketplace, just type Samayas and click search. And then it returns 3 of the extensions I've developed. Today I'm making a video about the replace in text, and you click through. And so here you have the full description of how to use this component. And if you want to use it, you need to click the get it for free, and then you get on this screen, and here you can click and download it, or you can click install, and it will install it in your Azure DevOps organization. And so at the end, we're all set. Of course, this only works if you have all the rights to install an extension in your Azure DevOps organization. If you open your Azure DevOps collection settings, you might have a screen that looks more or less like this. If you click on the Extensions tab, you have a list of all extensions which are currently installed on your Azure DevOps server. If in there you see Replace text in source files, then the install was successful. If we click through to Replace text in source files, we can see the list of all previous versions that have been installed in the past, should you have already installed this component. Now we are back in our Azure DevOps pipeline, and so first we're going to add replacing files, and we're going to go for simple replace text by text. And this is the one we'll be using to replace our package version. So we put it before the build, and so first I'm going to change the description. The source directory in where he's searching, I'll leave it on build source directory. We're going to be searching for package version 1.0.0, and we're going to be replacing it by package version 1.0. project build number. And this is almost complete. We just need to go to advanced, and here we need to specify how we're going to search. And here we have the possibility we can search depending on a pattern like asterisk.cs, or we can use a list of predefined files where I specify the list of all individual files where I want to search in. Here we'll leave our file search. However, our search pattern here is not .cs but is .csproj. So now let's save and let's requeue. And our build is complete. Let's have a look at what the update package version to latest, right? It was searching for asterisk.csproj, and it was looking for package version 1.0.0, and it was replacing it by package version 1.0.variable, which has been replaced by 2. And in the next line, we see there was a hit where indeed package version has been replaced in our test class csproj. So now by having this done, technically we should have an output where we have a NuGet package in version 1.0.2. Let's have a look. And now we have a package which is 1.0.2. So we succeeded to fix our first problem. Now let's edit again. So now we'll be adding the replace between file. I click on add, I put it before the build. I'll first change display name. Next we can see we have the source directory, which is the root of where everything is. And now we'll be searching for text in between. If we go back to the text we want to replace, we'll be searching first for this string, then we want to replace this block, and then we'll be searching for this string at the end. So let's go. So I'm searching for test class version, and my end string is this, and I'll be replacing by project version number .0. If I go back to variables, the project version number is the major minor 1.0 project build number, but I have 4, while here I've only got 3. And so I fix this by adding a fourth one. And finally, we go in advanced. Instead of using the file search pattern, I'll be using the file list. And this time, I'll just use the test directory testfile1.cs. The test directory is where my unit tests are located, and the test file is called test1. And so I'm all set for doing the run. Now I just need to update my unit tests to be enabled again. And now let's give it a try. And so my build is completed successfully. If I now go to the second, I can see it is first going to replace variable 1.0.3.0 and it's searching this block and this block. And there was one match. And so if you go back to the tests, as we can see, all tests are successful. So with a little bit of help or extensions, the sky is the limit, right? And you can replace whatever you want before the build pipeline executes itself. If you guys enjoy this content, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe to this channel and hit the bell sign, or leave a comment down below.